They were just trying to make ends meet. Two single moms, one pregnant, the other barely getting by, took a chance on a rusted-out storage locker nobody else wanted. For $95, it looked like nothing but dust and regret. But buried beneath the cracked bins and broken boxes was a discovery that would not only rewrite their pasts, but shape a new future neither of them dared to dream of. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. And if you believe in second chances, in stories that begin in the mess and end in meaning, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow's story might just be yours. The auction lot smelled like old rubber and rain-soaked plywood. It was held behind a fenced-in yard behind a one-storage off Route 12, where forgotten lives waited in padlocked rows. For Jordan Clark, 8 months pregnant and tired down to her bones, this wasn't a treasure hunt. It was a desperate Hail Mary. For Lily Grant, standing 2 feet to her right and equally broke, it was a bet she couldn't afford but couldn't walk away from either. Neither woman had spoken a word to each other when the auctioneer started his chant. The crowd was thin. Rain had chased most away, and the locker up for bid was a known dud. Unit 117. No photos, no interest. The door had rusted shut, and when they finally yanked it open, the crowd let out a disappointed breath. Cardboard towers sagged with mildew. Broken shelving leaned like wounded soldiers. The kind of mess no one wanted to touch. Except for Jordan and Lily. They each raised their paddle for the same reason, a gut feeling. But when the auctioneer called final at $95, both paddles were up. He paused. "Ladies, looks like we've got a tie. Want to split it?" Jordan blinked. Lily hesitated, then nodded. "Fine with me." It was only after they shook on it that they actually looked at each other. Jordan was visibly pregnant, damp hair pulled back, her hoodie zipped awkwardly over her belly. Lily was older by maybe 5 years, worn jeans, a quiet kind of tired behind her eyes. "I'm Jordan," she offered. Lily. They didn't exchange much else, just a shared nod and a walk toward the locker. When the metal creaked open for real, the smell hit first. Mold, dust, maybe mouse droppings. The light barely reached the back wall. "This was a mistake," Lily muttered. Jordan stepped in anyway. "Maybe," she said. "But it's ours now." They worked in silence at first, pulling out plastic tubs that crumbled at the edges. A broken microwave. A child's pink scooter with no wheels. Boxes labeled, "Kitchen, 1,998, and X-Mass? Most of the tape had dried out. They barely held together. Jordan lifted a tote and sneezed into her sleeve. "I feel like I just inhaled 2005. Lily chuckled dryly. "If we die in here, tell my kid I tried." Same. It wasn't until Jordan tripped on a rolled-up rug that something strange happened. The rug shifted, moved. She yelped and jumped back. Lily froze. Then, out from behind the stack of bins in the corner, stepped a golden retriever. Thin, matted, tail wagging slow, cautious. "Oh my God," Jordan whispered. The dog stood still, head tilted. One paw lifted like it wasn't sure if this was friend or foe. "Hey there, buddy," Lily said gently, crouching low. She held out a hand. "Where did you come from?" The dog inched closer. His nose twitched. Then he closed the gap and pressed his head against her palm like it had been waiting. They looked at each other, not the dog, each other, and something shifted. A new kind of silence filled the space. Not awkward, not tired, just shared. "He's been locked in here," Jordan said softly, hand on her stomach now. "How long, you think?" "Long enough," Lily answered. She ran a hand down the dog's side. Ribs too easy to count. A tag missing. No collar. Jordan exhaled. "Well, we can't leave him." "No," Lily said. "We really can't." And just like that, their story stopped being about junk and started being about someone else entirely. They found a crusty water bowl and a chewed leash deeper in the pile. And next to that, a sealed crate labeled in faded Sharpie. "Privet returned to owner." Jordan stared at it. "That doesn't belong here," she said. Lily looked at the box, then at the dog curled up beside them like he'd finally found home. "Maybe none of this does." The box didn't look like much. Just an old moving crate, yellowed at the corners, sealed with 2 layers of duct tape and a sticker so faded, only the outline of the word private remained visible. No return address, no date. But the words return to owner felt heavier than cardboard. Lily touched it first. The tape was cracked and flaking, but still stuck. You think it's legal to open something like this? Jordan didn't answer right away. She was sitting on an overturned bucket, one hand resting on her lower back, the other on her belly. The golden retriever who they'd quietly begun calling Rusty had curled up at her feet. I think we just inherited a mystery, she said. Lily carefully started peeling the tape. Not tearing it felt wrong to be rough with it. The flap gave way with a low crackle, revealing a smaller box inside. This one wooden, polished at one point, but now scuffed and dry. Lily lifted it out, like it might break in her hands. There was a name burned into the lid. M. Allen. Jordan leaned in. You know anyone named Allen? No, Lily said. But that's not a common name. Maybe it's traceable. Inside were 3 things. A stack of photographs. Rubber. Banded together. A child's drawing bright crayon swirls with the word mummy scrawled at the top, and a leather-bound journal, cracked and frayed at the spine. Lily flipped through the photographs. Most were snapshots from the 90 seconds. A woman with bright red hair and tired eyes. A toddler in overalls. A cluttered apartment. A birthday cake with slanted candles. Then one photo near the bottom made Lily go still. Jordan, she said, holding it out. Look at this. It was a picture of a young woman, probably in her 20s, standing beside a storage unit. Not this one, but one just like it. The number stenciled on the metal door. 117. Jordan took it gently. That's our unit. They sat in silence for a while, the wind rustling through the half-open garage door. Rusty sighed in his sleep. Lily picked up the journal and turned to the first page. The handwriting was uneven, rushed. If someone finds this and I'm gone, please don't think I just walked away. There are things I never got to say. To my son, to the woman I loved, to the people who stopped asking. There was no signature. Jordan swallowed hard. Who writes something like that and just disappears? Someone who didn't think anyone would listen, Lily said. She kept flipping. There were entries about motel rooms, jobs that didn't last, small towns passed through like blips. A life on the run not from the law, but from grief. The final pages were different, the writing slower, more careful. The last entry ended with a sentence that neither woman could shake. If the world forgets me, maybe this box won't. Beneath the writing, scrawled in blue pen, was an address. Just a street and city. In Oregon. Jordan looked up. That's 2 states over. Lily stared at the box, at the journal, then at the dog still asleep beside them. Do you think we're supposed to do something with this? Jordan didn't answer right away. She was rubbing slow circles on her belly. Then she said something neither of them expected. I think we were meant to find it. They took the box home that night, not to their separate apartments, but to Lily's. The one with the busted heater and the second-hand couch that sank in the middle. Jordan didn't want to be alone, and Lily didn't want her to be. Rusty padded in like he'd always lived there, curled up in the corner near the radiator and fell asleep without a sound. The journal sat between them on the coffee table, lit by the soft yellow of a lamp with a fraying cord. The TV was off. The world outside didn't exist. I keep wondering who this person was, Jordan murmured. She left a trail, but no name. Just that address. Lily opened the journal again. She talks about a son. Maybe that's who the drawings are from. There was a page halfway through where the handwriting faltered, like the pen had been shaking. I didn't lose custody. I gave it up. Not because I didn't love him, but because I did. I wasn't safe then. I was angry and poor and broken, and he needed peace, not pieces of me. Jordan swallowed hard. She looked down at her stomach. I can't imagine giving up your kid like that. Lily was quiet. Then she said, maybe it wasn't giving up. Maybe it was giving over to someone who could give him what she couldn't. She touched one of the photos, the red-haired woman holding the child, a messy apartment, a brave smile. The kind that says, "I'm doing my best, even if it's not enough." I think she was trying to leave something behind, Lily added. Something her kid might find one day. Only we found it instead. They sat with that. The journal, the drawing, the address, it all felt unfinished, like a sentence left mid-thought. And now it was in their hands. Jordan leaned back against the couch. If it were me, I'd want someone to follow the trail. Lily looked at her. Even if it led nowhere? Jordan nodded. Especially then. Outside, the night deepened. Snow flurries danced beneath the streetlight. Rusty let out a soft yawn and turned over in his sleep. Lily reached for her laptop and typed in the address. A house came up. Small, weathered, overgrown yard. No, recent sale history. Still owned by someone named Margaret Allen. She turned the screen to Jordan. Still think this is just junk? Jordan smiled softly, resting both hands on her belly. No, I think it's the beginning of something. The snow had stopped by morning, but the cold stuck to everything. Jordan shuffled into Lily's kitchen in mismatched socks and poured herself a cup of weak coffee. She stood in the silence, watching the steam rise, one hand on her belly like it had become habit. Maybe it had. Lily sat at the tiny kitchen table, flipping through the journal again. She hadn't slept much. Her son, Liam, was at his dad's for the week, and the quiet in the apartment had felt unfamiliar, not peaceful, just hollow. She wasn't used to company. Not really. But Jordan filled the space like sunlight without even trying. I found something, Lily said. Jordan turned. It's not just the address. She held up the journal. There's a page near the end. She mentions a debt left unpaid, and a box that she couldn't bring herself to mail. What if this box was that? Jordan sipped her coffee slowly. She was trying to return something. To someone. Lily nodded. To Margaret Allen. Whoever she is. Whoever she was. The house on the printout sat in a rural town in Oregon, a place neither of them had ever been. Population just over 2,000. Jordan Googled it the night before, sitting cross-legged on the couch with Rusty resting his head on her lap. One grocery store. One gas station. A town too small to hide in, yet somehow this story had gone unseen for years. We could go, Jordan said. Lily blinked. Go? To the house. Find her. You're 8 months pregnant. 7.5, Jordan corrected. And I'm not going alone. Lily stared at her. We don't even know what's waiting for us there. Exactly, Jordan said softly. Which means we can't just pretend we didn't find it. Lily opened her mouth to protest money, time, logic, but the words didn't come. She remembered the way Jordan had looked at the photo of the red-haired woman, the journal in her lap, her voice cracking when she said, I'd want someone to follow the trail. Maybe it wasn't about answers. Maybe it was about not ignoring the questions. Later that day, they packed. Lily borrowed her cousin's van. Jordan made a list of all the hospitals along the way, just in case. Rusty refused to be left behind, curling up in the van like a living seatbelt. Before they pulled out of the lot, Jordan turned in her seat. You sure? Lily looked ahead, hands on the wheel. Not even a little. Good. Jordan smiled. Me neither. And with that, they pulled onto the highway. 2 women, 1 mystery, and a silent dog with eyes that had already seen too much. They didn't know it yet, but the box in the back seat wasn't just a link to someone else's past. It was about to rewrite both of theirs. The miles passed like chapters, snow turning to sleet, sleet giving way to clear skies and frostbitten farmland. Jordan kept track of every gas stop, every hiccup from the engine, and every time the baby kicked hard enough to make her wince. But she didn't complain. Not once. Lily noticed. They drove in shifts. Slept in motels that smelled like bleach and TV dinners. Rusty adjusted like a pro, always curling up by the door, ears twitching at every sound but never barking. On the 3rd night, after a long stretch through Idaho, they stopped at a roadside diner with neon lights flickering like tired eyes. Inside, the waitress poured coffee with the rhythm of someone who'd been doing it too long. You two headed somewhere? Or running from something? She asked, almost kindly. Jordan smiled. Maybe both. Lily stared out the window. We're trying to find someone. Margaret Allen. She used to live in Tillum, Oregon. The waitress paused. Tillum? She nodded slowly. That's a small place. Folks tend to stick, or vanish. That last word lingered in the air longer than the smell of bacon grease. Back on the road, Jordan asked the question that had been pressing on her all day. Why did you bid on that locker, Lily? Really? Lily kept her eyes forward. My son's school tuition's behind. I thought maybe I'd find something to flip. I've done it before. You? Jordan was quiet for a while. Then she said, I think I wanted to prove something. That I could still take a chance on something, even when everything else felt like it was closing in. Lily nodded, eyes softening. They didn't talk again for a while, but something passed between them. Not just understanding trust. A quiet agreement that whatever this journey was, they weren't walking it alone anymore. By morning, Oregon's pine trees rose like watchmen along the highway. Mist curled between them like secrets. When they pulled into Tillum, the town was smaller than the photos suggested. One main street, a bakery, a hardware store, a post office the size of a garage. Lily parked the van in front of a white house with peeling paint and an overgrown hedge. The address matched. Jordan stared. You ready? Lily reached back for the wooden box, heart suddenly pounding. Let's find out who she was. They stepped out, Rusty at their heels. The porch creaked beneath their feet, and then the door opened before they even knocked. A man stood there, older, thin frame, sharp eyes that softened the moment he saw what Lily held in her hands. He didn't say anything. He just stared at the box, and whispered, Where did you find that? The door opened before they even knocked. The man standing in the doorway looked to be in his early 60s, though something in the way he carried his shoulders made him seem older. His face was narrow, marked with deep lines around his mouth and eyes, like a man who had spent a lifetime holding back things he couldn't say. His gaze dropped to the wooden box in Lily's hands. The world seemed to still. He didn't say, hello. Didn't ask what they wanted. He just stared at it and whispered, Where did you find that? Lily swallowed. In Nevada. A storage unit. It was sealed inside a bigger box. There was a journal, photos. Your address was written in the back. He stepped forward, slowly, like his legs didn't trust the ground yet. You opened it? Jordan, her belly heavy, stood a little behind Lily. She spoke gently. Some of it. Enough to know it wasn't meant to be lost. The man blinked. His jaw worked like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure what version of himself should speak. Finally, he stepped aside. I'm Daniel, he said. Margaret Allen was my sister. They entered the house. It smelled faintly of cedar and dust, of wood smoke and thyme. The living room was small, neat, and filled with quiet memories. Picture frames lined the mantel all black and white, mostly from the 80 seconds and 90 seconds. One photo caught Jordan's eye immediately. A young red-haired woman, holding a toddler, with a party hat slipping off his head. The smile on her face was exhausted, defiant, and deeply full of love. That's her? Lily asked. Daniel nodded and eased down into an armchair across from them. Lily set the box gently on the coffee table like it might crumble if mishandled. Rusty, who had followed them in without protest, lay down at Jordan's feet and rested his chin on her boot. She left town the year Eli was taken, Daniel said. Just vanished. I didn't hear from her again until I got a letter 4 years later. No return address. Said she was working on getting better, that she'd come back when she was ready. Lily reached into her tote and pulled out the journal. I think this was her way of trying. Daniel took it in his hands like it was made of glass. He didn't open it right away. He just held it. The air between them grew heavy with something unspoken. She wasn't bad, he said. Just broken in places she didn't know how to mend. We had a rough childhood. When Eli came along, I thought he'd be the thing that saved her. And for a while, he was. But trauma doesn't leave quietly. It gets loud when you try to silence it. He finally opened the journal. His fingers traced the ink like he was trying to memorize her handwriting. She wanted to be a good mom, he whispered. She really did. Jordan nodded. We know. Daniel wiped at his eyes. I didn't even know this box existed. She used to talk about making a time capsule. A way to leave something behind in case she never got the ending she hoped for. I thought it was one of those pipe dreams. She left it for someone, Lily said. Maybe for Eli. Maybe for you. He exhaled, slow and shaky. Do you know what happened to him? Lily shook her head. The journal says he was adopted. Closed case. She lost the rights. No names. Just silence. I tried, Daniel murmured. Wrote letters to the state. Even hired someone for a few months. But there were no breadcrumbs. I stopped chasing ghosts. Jordan looked at the crayon drawing from the box, now resting in Daniel's lap. Do you want to find him? He looked up. Of course. But I'm an old man. What would I even say? Lily didn't hesitate. You don't have to say everything. You just have to say enough, so he knows he wasn't forgotten. Silence followed. The weight of a past long buried, now fully unearthed. I don't know why you came all this way, Daniel said, his voice barely above a whisper. But, thank you. Jordan smiled softly. Because some stories deserve to be carried. Even if we're not the ones who live them. The tea Daniel poured was lukewarm, the kind that steeped more out of habit than desire. They didn't drink much of it. Most of their attention stayed fixed on the journal, the box, and the pieces of a woman who'd vanished before she could be understood. Daniel unfolded a brittle envelope from inside the journal. It contained a single photograph Jordan and Lily hadn't seen yet, Margaret in what looked like a hospital gown, holding a swaddled baby in her arms, eyes closed, forehead resting gently against the newborn's. Daniel turned it toward them. She had that photo taken the day before they took him. I only found it after she left town. Jordan reached for the image and held it carefully, her breath catching in her throat. She looks peaceful, like she knew it might be the only photo she ever got. Daniel nodded. She told me once that holding Eli was the first time she'd ever felt like she belonged to something. Lily flipped a few more pages of the journal. The entries became more fragmented near the end. One was just a list of names, some crossed out, some underlined. Another page said only, I didn't abandon him. I surrendered the part of me that was breaking him. She was trying to save him, Jordan said. She was trying to save both of them, Lily added. Daniel sat forward. You asked me if I wanted to find him. I do. But it's been over 20 years. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Jordan exchanged a glance with Lily. What if we tried? She asked. All of us? Daniel tilted his head. You'd help a stranger chase a memory? You're not a stranger anymore, Lily said. And this isn't just your story. It's his, and hers, and maybe even ours. They spent the next 2 hours online. Lily had a laptop in her bag. They cross-referenced adoption forums, private investigator sites, and name change services. Nothing surfaced. Too many years. Too many sealed records. Still, it felt like something had shifted. The attempt mattered. I don't know if he'll ever come looking, Daniel said, but if he does, I want this waiting for him. He tapped the lid of the wooden box. I want him to know she didn't just disappear. She tried. Later, as they stood to leave, Daniel pulled something from the mantel, a letter in an unsealed envelope. She sent this before she died. Said if anyone ever came asking about her, to give them this. He handed it to Jordan. She opened it once they were back in the van. The letter was short. To whoever finds this. Thank you. You cared enough to look. I may never meet you, but I believe you're the kind of person who doesn't leave stories half-finished. If you find my son, tell him I loved him, even in the dark, especially then. And if you're carrying something heavy, let it teach you, not crush you. Love is never wasted, even when it leaves. It wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. Jordan folded the letter against her heart. Lily drove in silence, the road stretching out before them like possibility. And in the back seat, the box sat quietly, still full not of junk or pain anymore, but of memory, love, and hope, waiting to be handed to the right hands. The return to Nevada felt quieter than expected. Lily thought there would be a sense of finality, a door closing now that Margaret's story had been returned to someone who could remember it with love. But it wasn't closure that lingered. It was purpose. And a question neither she nor Jordan could shake. Now what? Jordan had moved in temporarily after they got back. Her small apartment on the west side of town had stairs too steep for a woman in her final weeks of pregnancy. Lily's place was cluttered and uneven, but it had a pull-out couch and warmth. They fell into a rhythm easily. Jordan brewed the morning coffee. Lily folded tiny baby clothes on the couch. Rusty guarded the front door like their gentle old sentinel. The wooden box sat on a shelf in Lily's living room, beside the faded photograph of Margaret and Eli. It no longer looked like an artifact. It looked like it belonged. Days passed. Then a week. And then one quiet Thursday morning, Lily's phone buzzed with an email. The subject line stopped her breath. "I think you found my mother." She clicked. "My name is Elijah. I'm 24. I was adopted out of Oregon in 1999. I was searching for something else entirely when I came across a forum post from two women who found a box in a storage unit. You mentioned a woman named Margaret Allen. The details, they match too much to ignore. I don't know what I'm hoping for. But, if this is real, if it really was her, please write me back." Lily read it twice, then passed the phone to Jordan. Jordan's hand covered her mouth. Her eyes watered instantly. "It's him," they replied within the hour. Elijah asked questions, careful, skeptical, hopeful questions. They answered each with tenderness and patience. Photos followed. Then excerpts from the journal. Then a video call. He cried when he saw the drawing. "It used to be on my wall," he said, "until I was 5. Then one day it was just gone." They never explained. He didn't have all the answers either. His adoptive parents had loved him, he made that clear. But he'd always sensed something unspoken in the margins of his story. And now, the margins had begun to fill in. 3 days later, he flew in. He was taller than they imagined. Sharp eyes. Thoughtful speech. He hugged Lily first, then Jordan gently, his arms awkwardly wrapping around her belly. "She would have loved to meet you," he said. Jordan smiled. "She kind of already has." They drove him straight to the box. He opened it like a son returning home after years away. Inside were the pieces of a woman who had done her best, in the only way she knew how, with love buried under loss, with ink scratched across pages in the dark. "She tried," he whispered. And they all nodded, because yes, now, finally, that truth was no longer in question. That night, over dinner, Elijah asked what they planned to do next. "We're not sure," Lily admitted. "But this whole thing, it changed something. We can't just go back to before." Jordan, holding her belly like a prayer, said, "We were thinking of starting something, a space, for stories like this. For people. A place where forgotten things get another chance," Lily added. Elijah smiled. "I'd like to help." They opened the shop on a bright spring morning. The sky was high and blue, and the strip mall that once held only closed signs and broken neon had come alive with paint and promise. They named it Second Light. It was small. 2 rooms and a back storage area. But the floors had been scrubbed clean, the walls painted pale yellow, and the windows framed with hand-sewn curtains that fluttered in the morning breeze. A chalkboard out front read, "Second-hand goods, first-class hope." The first donation came from Elijah, a pair of worn books, a blank note tucked between the pages. "For her, for you, for whoever walks in next, wondering if they matter." People didn't come just to shop. They came to remember. They came to heal. There was a shelf along the west wall where items from the storage unit now lived. The crayon drawing, a framed page from Margaret's journal, the box itself behind glass. A plaque beneath it read, "Found, not lost, loved, not forgotten." Jordan brought the baby most days. Her name was Ava Grace. She had Margaret's fire-red hair, though it had only just started to grow. She slept beside the register in a donated bassinet, wrapped in soft quilts made by local women who dropped them off without a word. Lily handled the books, the donations, the long conversations with strangers who turned into regulars. Rusty lay at the front door, tail wagging when children entered. He had his own dog bed in the corner, and customers would often sit beside him, talking like he was the only one who could understand. He probably did. Daniel called once a week, sometimes just to ask about Ava, sometimes just to sit on the phone in silence. "I don't know what you two did," he said once, "but you stitched something back together that I thought was gone forever." Jordan and Lily never called themselves heroes. They weren't trying to be. They were just women who saw a story sitting in dust and didn't walk past it. One afternoon, a girl no older than 16 wandered in. She didn't speak at first, just stared at the journal wall. Lily approached gently, offered her a cup of tea. "Every person who walks through this door is carrying something," she said. "You don't have to tell us what. But just know we see you." The girl stayed, helped stock the shelves, came back the next day, and the day after that. Stories had a way of pulling other stories toward them. By summer, Second Light had become more than a store. It became a sanctuary. A local artist painted a mural on the side wall, a silhouette of a woman holding a child beneath a sky full of scattered pages. Each page held a single word: hope, forgive, begin, stay, remember, heal. Elijah visited often. Not always for long, but always with something to give, a memory, a question. Once, a letter he'd written to Margaret and never planned to send. Lily framed it, placed it next to the box. On the last page, he wrote, "I used to think I was abandoned. Now I know I was loved. And that makes all the difference." That night, after the store closed, Jordan rocked Ava in the quiet. Lily restocked the shelves. The evening light turned the windows golden. And for the first time in a long time, both women felt it not just peace, but pride. They had turned a forgotten storage unit into a legacy. Not just for Margaret, not just for Elijah, but for everyone who walked through their door hoping to find something they didn't yet know they'd lost. And somewhere in the stillness, as the lights dimmed and the store exhaled the breath of another day, a story whispered, "Thank you for finishing me."